The Black Death, a dramatic and depressingly iconic tale of death and despair. In the grim shadows of the 14th century, a silent storm of death swept across continents, changing the course of human history with the quiet cruelty of a whispered curse. The Black Death, an unrelenting plague, emerged like a phantom from the east, riding along trade routes, stowing away in the belly of ships, and haunting the caravans that once promised prosperity. What began as isolated murmurs of illness in Central Asia soon crescendoed into a scream across Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. Between 1347 and 1351, it would erase between 75 to 200 million lives, obliterating nearly half of Europe's population and branding itself into the marrow of civilization. This was not merely a disease. It was an apocalypse masquerading as pestilence. The culprit, Yersinia pestis, traveled in the blood of fleas who clung to the fur of rats, stowaways on merchant ships that docked at the port of Messina in Sicily. As soon as the ships dropped anchor, death followed. Sailors staggered off with grotesque swellings, blackened buboes the size of apples, oozing pus and blood. Fever scorched the mind, and within days, the body collapsed into silence. It moved with demonic swiftness, showing no regard for class, creed, or crown. Kings and peasants alike succumbed to the same dark end. Europe was unprepared. Physicians, their knowledge steeped in superstition and ancient texts, were powerless. Bloodletting, charms, and prayers did nothing against the invisible enemy. Cities became graveyards. In Florence, corpses were stacked like firewood in churchyards. In Paris, the stench of decay wafted over the Seine. In London, death carts rumbled through the cobbled streets, bells tolling for the souls that never had time for last rites. "Bring out your dead," became the refrain of a continent in collapse. The social fabric unraveled, families abandoned the sick, parents left dying children behind. Brotherhood turned to suspicion. Strangers were seen as carriers of death. Mass hysteria took hold. Flagellants marched through towns, whipping themselves bloody to atone for mankind's sins, believing the plague was divine punishment. Others turned on the Jews, scapegoating them as well, poisoners, igniting massacres that turned cities into arenas of genocide. Flagellants marched through towns, whipping themselves bloody to atone for mankind's sins, believing the plague was divine punishment. Others turned on the Jews, scapegoating them as well, poisoners, igniting massacres that turned cities into arenas of genocide. Religion cracked under the strain. The Church, unable to protect or explain the catastrophe, lost its grip on the hearts of many. Desperate prayers went unanswered. Monks died in their cloisters. Nuns rotted in convents. Hope, once housed in cathedrals, fled into the hills. And yet, amid the smothering darkness, the world changed. Fields went untilled, villages vanished, but survivors inherited a land suddenly rich in opportunity. Serfs gained power. The rigid hierarchies of feudalism began to crumble. Art and literature, blackened with despair, took on new shapes, haunted, introspective, and obsessed with death. The danse macabre, the dance of death, reminded all that the grave spares none. The Black Death was no mere plague. It was a reckoning, a silent war against human arrogance, a harbinger of the modern world wrapped in black shrouds. It forced humanity to stare into the abyss and ask if there was meaning in suffering, or if fate was just a wheel spinning blindly over bones. Even now, centuries later, the specter of the Black Death lingers. In nursery rhymes like Ring Around the Rosie, in art, in bone-laden crypts across Europe, it whispers of a time when the world stood still and the air itself seemed cursed. A time when death was not a visitor, but a monarch, cloaked in shadow, seated on a throne of skulls. For more information, check out our channel and subscribe.